The protagonist of our story was transported to a world where beast tamers are the most important class in society. However, he found himself in the body of a young man who owned a beast incapable of evolving. He was bullied by everyone and lived a miserable life. But one day, he finally received a notification that he had obtained a system allowing him to evolve beasts and gain power at an extraordinary speed. Our story begins at a school known as the Beginner Monster Training Academy, where students are preparing for an upcoming test called the Beastmaster exam, scheduled to take place in a few days. During class, the instructor informs them that a preliminary evaluation for this test will be held the next day. Since each of them has already formed their first contract with a monster, their current priority is to get enough rest and train diligently. After class, the students are seen discussing their anxiety about the upcoming evaluation. One of them expresses deep concern, to which a classmate responds that their current abilities make achieving the rank of Beastmaster extremely difficult. Meanwhile, another student appears excited about the prospect of joining the Beastmaster Academy in Ningyang City. He acknowledges that it may not be the best academy, but it suits his current capabilities. His friend, on the other hand, voices his fear of failing the exam, as that would force him to live an ordinary life. At the end of the lesson, one student sits alone, lost in thought, indifferent to the preliminary evaluation. In reality, he is a time traveler. He begins narrating his story, explaining that less than a week ago, he traveled through time and arrived at this point, inhabiting the body of the person he now is. Through the memories of the body's original owner, he learned about the nature of this world, and how, hundreds of years ago, a catastrophe led to the emergence of countless monsters through dimensional rifts. At that time, these creatures began hunting and killing humans, causing immense devastation. However, as the resistance continued, people eventually discovered techniques to tame these beings. This led to the rise of the Beastmaster profession, which became one of the most prestigious and highly ranked occupations. Anyone who entered this field was guaranteed a place among society's elite, making it a dream pursued by all young individuals aspiring to become spirit masters. In this world, individuals who reach the age of 18 or older are permitted to form their first contract with a monster. The stronger one's spirit, the greater their ability to bond with powerful creatures. However, the protagonist insists that none of this concerns him, as the body he now inhabits had already formed its first contract before his arrival in this world, with a small creature resembling a snowball. The problem is that this monster poses no threat to humans or other creatures. It constantly behaves kindly, and even worse, it lacks the ability to evolve. At this point, the protagonist wonders whether he should accept reality and live an ordinary life like everyone else. Yet, frustration quickly sets in as he laments his misfortune. After all, every other time traveler he has heard of gained extraordinary abilities or enough power to shake the world, while his fate is tied to this harmless little creature. His sense of misery deepens when a classmate mocks him, remarking that he shouldn't worry about the evaluation. After all, becoming a Beastmaster isn't necessary. He could simply work an ordinary job, which would be a much safer choice, as it doesn't require taking risks or participating in dangerous missions. Another student joins the conversation, suggesting that he could make use of his snowball monster by placing it at the entrance of a shopping center and selling ice cream. The first student laughs, adding, or maybe even bottled water. Feeling a surge of anger at their ridicule, Lin suddenly notices a notification appearing before him, informing him that the system has been charged and is now activating. Realizing the significance of this moment, he decides to ignore his classmates' taunts and focus on this opportunity, which might finally allow him to achieve his ambition. He begins to ponder why the system hadn't functioned since his arrival in this world, wondering if it had simply lacked the necessary energy to activate. Overcome with excitement, he is thrilled to see the system coming to life at last. He even finds himself longing to hear that angelic voice announcing its activation. He then sits before the screen displaying his abilities and available upgrades, discovering that any achievement he makes will earn him points that can be used to enhance his monster. He searches for ways to help Snowball grow and learns that its development depends on either engaging in battles or consuming energy-rich items. Once its growth reaches 100%, the evolution feature will activate, leading to a significant increase in the creature's power. Lin is utterly astonished, as he had always believed that the snowball monster could never evolve. However, he later comes across new information revealing that his monster has two possible evolution paths. The first is the giant path, which enhances its close combat strength but weakens its ice control abilities, ultimately transforming it into a giant snow beast. The second option is the queen path, which significantly enhances its ice control and magical power, though at the cost of its melee combat abilities. This path leads to its evolution into an ice crystal spirit, which can continue advancing until it reaches the queen rank. Lin realizes that while his snowball monster cannot evolve directly, it does possess hidden ways to achieve transformation. He then looks at his monster, wondering if it can truly evolve, allowing him to avoid selling ice cream on the streets, and perhaps even become a true beastmaster. Additionally, he considers the possibility that the queen path might eventually lead to the king rank, which excites him greatly. Determined to explore this path further, he checks its requirements and plans to use the achievement points he has accumulated to develop his monster. He discovers that passing the evaluation will earn him 200 points and a spirit crystal, while passing the Beastmaster training qualification will grant him 300 points, along with a spirit crystal and a power crystal. At present, he has 100 points and a spirit crystal, thanks to successfully forming his first contract with his monster. He decides to invest these points into developing his companion. He withdraws them and initiates the upgrade process for his snowball monster. As a result, the creature advances from the first stage to the second, fulfilling the 100% growth requirement. He is overjoyed to see that the enhancement was successful and is even more pleased to find that he only used 70 points, meaning he still has 30 achievement points left. However, his excitement quickly fades when he notices that the growth effect is disappearing. After swelling up like a real snowball, his monster reverts to its original small size. He then asks his monster if it feels frustrated being nothing more than a pet, without any combat abilities. Realizing that he still needs Ice Element Essence and Spiritual Jade to further develop his monster, he acknowledges that upgrading it is his best chance of achieving his goal. He then discovers that he requires 20 Ice Element Essences and 1 Spirit Ruby, and he remarks in surprise at how such a tiny snowball monster demands so many resources to evolve, especially considering their high cost. As he leaves the classroom, he contemplates that he must first gather enough money before heading to the pet store to purchase these materials. However, before he can exit, he encounters his bully, who sneers at him, asking if he plans to return home with his snowball monster to sell ice cream. Yet, Lin pays no attention to such ridiculous remarks and advises his monster to ignore them as well, reminding it that the upcoming evaluation will be entirely up to it. In response, the snowball monster lets out a soft "noo-noo" sound. Hearing the word ridiculous, his bully grows irritated and asks if Lin was referring to him. At that moment, Lin considers the fact that the Jiang family is the second most influential family in Jiangning City, and he knows that he cannot afford to provoke them just yet. Nonetheless, he is certain that his time will come, and when it does, he will prove his worth. He then tells his classmate that if he wants to find out who the real fool is, he will know when the final selection results for the Beastmaster exam are announced. His bullies burst into laughter, with Jiang mocking him, questioning if he seriously intends to take the exam with a monster that cannot even evolve. Another student chimes in, saying that if he were in Lin's place, he wouldn't bother showing up for the evaluation the next day, as his chances of success are non-existent. Instead, he suggests that Lin should start selling popsicles instead. At that moment, their female classmate steps in, scolding Jiang and telling him not to go too far. Jiang, however, smirks and sarcastically remarks that Ning is now defending Lin. He then laughs, saying he won't push things further because he is terrified of Lin, the insignificant. Meanwhile, another classmate comments that he cannot understand what Ning sees in someone like Lin and suggests that she would be better off with Jiang. However, Lin tells her not to pay attention to their words and to avoid arguing with them, assuring her that they will come to understand the truth in due time. He then informs her that he needs to visit the pet store first, so she should head home on her own today. The scene shifts as Lin returns home after purchasing supplies from the pet store. As he walks along the road, he reflects on how he has spent all his savings, which he had accumulated over several months, to buy these items. Just then, he hears Ning calling out to him. Ning approaches and informs him that her mother has sent her to ask if he will be joining them for dinner tonight. He replies that he will, but only after a short while. Ning then tells him that she will be participating in the evaluation test the next day and asks if he will be going with her. Lin assures her that he will attend since he is also taking the test, which makes Ning happy. She urges him to teach Jiang and his gang a lesson they won't forget. He reassures her that he will, telling her not to worry about it. Ning then says she will be heading home and advises him to take care of himself. Later, Lin arrives home and begins inspecting the items he purchased, considering how the real issue lies in the high cost of Ice Element Essence and Spiritual Jade. He then looks at his snowball monster and remarks that upgrading it again will require an enormous amount of money. He places the materials on the ground in front of his monster, allowing it to consume them, watching as it eats greedily. He tells it to slow down, reassuring it that there is no competition for the food. Once the snowball monster finishes eating, Lin notices a change in its appearance but is uncertain if this means it is beginning to evolve. Suddenly the monster starts emitting a bright light. Gradually, changes begin to manifest. Fingers start to appear. Over time it continues transforming, developing a full body with arms and legs. It becomes clear that it has now evolved into what is known as a crystal spirit, with its current power level at 0. yet it has the potential to further evolve into a snow maiden. Lin is overwhelmed with joy upon realizing that his once adorable snowball monster has successfully evolved into an ice crystal spirit. Furthermore, he learns that the monster has now reached the second stage and the second rank, and he celebrates the fact that its level has increased by an entire grade. As he assesses the situation, he considers that high school students' pet monsters typically range between the third and fifth stages of the first rank, while his own monster has jumped directly to the second rank. He touches it and finds it to be extremely cold. As he moves closer, he feels an intense chill, making him realize that its power has increased beyond his expectations. Moreover, as a result of the successful evolution, he has earned 100 achievement points and a power crystal. At that moment, he recalls that if not for the system's guidance on the necessary elements for developing the tiny snowball monster, no one would have ever suspected that such a weak pet could evolve. He then proceeds to claim his rewards. As expected, he obtains both the spirit crystal and the power crystal, thinking to himself that this was the best gamble he had made so far. He realizes that spirit crystals enhance spiritual strength, which determines the number and level of monsters one can contract with, whereas power crystals directly boost physical fitness, both of which are crucial for him. Lin then consumes the power crystal and the spirit crystal, immediately feeling a sharp gleam in his eyes. Clear changes begin to manifest in his body, and he discovers that both his physical and spiritual strength have nearly doubled. Additionally, his achievement points have increased to 123. He soon realizes that he no longer feels cold at all. Instead, he experiences a surge of energy coursing through him. In a moment of excitement, he strikes the wall with his fist, shattering it. He comments that while people usually do not engage in battles themselves, physical strength is always important, as it can be crucial for survival in dangerous situations. At that moment, the ice crystal spirit clings to his leg and communicates with him, prompting him to consider using his remaining points to upgrade it further. Without hesitation, he invests all his remaining achievement points into advancing its level. As a result, he successfully raises his monster to the fourth stage. He smiles confidently, realizing that the upcoming evaluation test will bring an unexpected surprise for everyone. The scene shifts to the day of the evaluation test, where Lin and Ning are walking together on their way to school. Ning asks him if he is prepared for the test, to which he confidently replies that he is fully ready, emphasizing that he is determined to succeed in the final Beastmaster evaluation. Ning is overjoyed by his decision, expressing her surprise at his growing enthusiasm, noting that he initially had no intention of participating at all. Lin smiles and responds that people always change. At that moment, two girls on the street notice them. One asks her friend if that is Ning, the talented third-year student at Bin High School, and wonders why she is always with that failure of a boy. Her friend replies that no one really knows the reason, adding that she heard Jo Hong had confessed his love to Ning, only to be rejected. She then remarks that she doesn't understand why so many people admire Ning. The other girl tries to hush her, but Lin has already overheard the entire conversation and reflects on how Ning is actually his cousin. She is a prodigy with many admirers, and there are also plenty of girls who are jealous of her. Yet, despite all this, she never pays attention to anyone else but him. Ning then asks Lin if he really plans to take the evaluation using his little snowball monster. He smiles at her confidently and assures her that he will, asking her not to underestimate its abilities. Amused, Ning playfully grabs him by the neck and jokes that if they both succeed today, they should celebrate together, as there's a shop she has been wanting to visit for a while. But suddenly, they hear a voice ordering Ning to stop, and a girl appears, pointing at her while telling her brother that she is the one who stole her boyfriend. Ning looks at her in confusion, asking who she is, and who this supposed boyfriend is. The girl furiously shouts that her boyfriend is Jo Hong, making Ning realize whom she is referring to, dismissing him as an annoying person. She recalls the moment he confessed his love to her while holding a red rose, and explains to the girl that she never paid him any attention and had rejected him the moment he expressed his feelings. However, the girl screams in anger, accusing Ning of lying and insisting that she deliberately seduced him. At that point, Ning takes Lin's hand and urges him to leave, stating that she has no intention of wasting her time explaining anything to these people, as they have far more important things to do. However, the boy accompanying the girl blocks their path, remarking that it is clear she is not taking this matter seriously, and he will not allow her to leave so easily. He then adds in a threatening tone that since she has caused trouble with his cousin, she must now face the consequences. Ning glares at him sharply and commands him to step aside. Her dismissive attitude enrages the boy, and he raises his hand, attempting to strike her while warning that he will show her his strength. But before he can do so, Lin swiftly intervenes, grabbing his arm to stop him, surprising Ning with his quick reaction. The furious girl then shouts at her cousin, demanding that he hit both of them, claiming that everyone knows Lin is completely useless. The boy sneers at Lin, mocking him by asking if he is trying to act like a heroic savior protecting the beautiful girl, warning him that he should worry about himself first. Before he can finish his sentence, Lin lands a powerful punch, sending him crashing to the ground. This shocks the girl who had brought him to intimidate Ning, and she rushes to check on him. Meanwhile, Lin also approaches him and tells him that Ning is like a sister to him, and if he has a problem, he should face him directly instead of harassing her. The boy's anger intensifies to the point where he looks like he is about to explode. At the same time, Ning gazes at Lin in amazement, unable to believe he possesses such combat strength. Lin himself is equally stunned by his physical abilities, realizing that he never expected his strength to increase so dramatically after consuming the power crystal. However, the injured boy refuses to back down, shouting at Lin and threatening him, declaring that he has brought this fate upon himself and will pay dearly for it. Then, without warning, he summons his monster, revealing a phantom wolf. The data indicates that it is a first-stage, second-rank creature. With arrogance, he addresses Lin and Ning, pointing out that they are merely high school students, and questioning whether they still believe they can compete with him or challenge his phantom wolf, which belongs to the second rank. At that moment, Ning began to consider that her beast had indeed reached the first rank, 7th stage. Yet, despite her strong confidence in it, its chances of defeating the phantom wolf remained extremely slim. However, there was no other choice. Just before she could summon her phantom, Lin intervened, stepping forward to face the beast himself. She quickly questioned him about what he was doing. Then, she asked if he intended to use the little snowball in this battle. Lin responded, explaining that if her beast sustained any injuries, it would affect her chances of succeeding in the school evaluation, so it was better for him to handle it instead. At that, the arrogant girl scoffed at him, claiming he must have lost his mind. She questioned how he, the weakest student in the school, could possibly think he could stand against her cousin. Then, she instructed her cousin to teach them a harsh lesson they wouldn't forget. Without hesitation, her cousin stepped forward and commanded the phantom wolf to attack Lin. It was then that Lin, for the first time, unleashed his beast after the recent enhancements. As the phantom wolf charged toward him, Lin's beast had already begun activating its icy power. The ice spirit crystal emerged, releasing an intense freezing energy capable of turning anything into solid ice. In an instant, the phantom wolf became a frozen statue, locked in the very attack stance it had prepared against Lin. At that moment, both the phantom wolf's owner and his arrogant cousin stood in shock, utterly speechless. Even Ning found it hard to believe what she had just witnessed, and asked Lin if this was the same little snowball. He replied that it had evolved. Meanwhile, the phantom wolf's owner, still unable to comprehend what had happened, called out to his beast, urging it to move. Lin then introduced his beast to Ning, explaining that it had now become the ice crystal spirit. In that instant, the spirit activated another ability through its eyes. It shattered the frozen phantom wolf into tiny pieces, enraging its owner. He protested, arguing that they were merely high school students, and that their beasts shouldn't surpass the 9th stage of the first rank. He then demanded to know how Lin had managed to achieve such power. Turning away, he prepared to leave, prompting his cousin to ask where he was going. He replied that Lin possessed a beast of a higher rank, which meant they had miscalculated, and it was best for them to leave. Just as they were about to walk away, Lin called out to him, asking if he had given them permission to leave. The two froze in place, not daring to take another step. After a tense moment, the boy turned toward Lin, bowing in apology, admitting his mistake. However, Lin informed him that he was not the one who deserved an apology. Without hesitation, the boy immediately apologized to Ning, admitting his wrongdoing and promising to teach Zhou a tough lesson. Realizing that his cousin remained standing in stunned silence, he ordered her to apologize as well, but Ning interjected, saying it wasn't necessary, and urged them to leave quickly. Once Lin allowed them to go, the boy grabbed his cousin and swiftly left the scene. Ning then turned to Lin, astonished by what had transpired. She told him he was incredible, and asked how he had managed such a feat, especially since the beast he had defeated belonged to the second rank. She also inquired about the true nature of the ice crystal spirit, and whether it could evolve further. Lin responded that it was possible but chose to postpone the discussion for another time, as it was not the right moment. They needed to head to the evaluation site. The scene then transitions to a luxurious building, revealed to be the headquarters of the Imperial Beast Association. Inside, a massive stone is prominently displayed, bearing an inscription that identifies it as the original stone. Lin and Ning arrive at the location, where a crowd stands before the stone, some marveling at its size, while others doubt its authenticity, questioning whether it is truly the original stone. Meanwhile, Lin is lost in thought, aware that this is the final evaluation test of the year. Some students would succeed and earn their place at the Imperial School of Beastmasters, while others would have no second chance. He knew he had to be among the successful ones today. At that moment, an official arrived, welcoming them and reminding them that they had received medals upon entry. He then explained that each medal bore one of the following words: low, medium, high, or extreme, and that these indicated the key to entering the realm of the original stone. He further clarified that each student would choose the difficulty level of their challenge, emphasizing that the greater the challenge, the greater the rewards. Then, he instructed them to look at the screen. A display appeared on the original stone, showcasing the available challenges along with their corresponding rewards. Some students excitedly expressed their aspirations to attempt the extreme challenge, while others admitted that it might be beyond their capabilities. After that, Ning asked Lin which challenge he would choose, but he was still thinking and had yet to respond. At that moment, the official addressed the students, stating that he wanted to offer them some advice before they made their choices. He explained that this decision would impact their future development, and that they should select their level based on their actual strength. After some consideration, Ning chose the high-level challenge. Then, the display screen revealed the students' selections. It showed that most had chosen the low level, 10 students had opted for the medium level, while only one student had selected the high level, and another had chosen the extreme level. The students immediately began speculating about who had picked the extreme challenge, assuming that it must have been a mistake, or that the person was unaware of the difficulty they were about to face. Lin overheard them commenting that whoever had chosen the extreme level would undoubtedly fail and lose their chance to enter the Imperial Academy of Beastmasters this year. Shortly after, Ning discovered that Lin was the one who had selected the extreme level. She warned him that if he failed the test, he would be unable to enter the academy. However, he reassured her that he knew exactly what he was doing, while the other students continued to call him crazy for making such a choice, assuming it must have been an accident. At that point, the official intervened and called out to Lin, reminding him that he had advised them to choose carefully. Lin confidently replied that he was absolutely certain of his decision. The official grew irritated and asked him what he meant by that, whether he truly believed he could pass the extreme level. Without hesitation, Lin responded with complete confidence, affirming that he was sure he would succeed. The official scoffed, remarking that young people always think they know everything, but added that Lin was free to make his own choices. If he wanted to play with fire, no one would stop him. After that, the official stood beside the original stone and announced that since all the students had chosen their respective challenges, the qualification tests would now begin. The students sat on the ground, preparing to be transported into the virtual world within the original stone. Then, the stone emitted a powerful light that engulfed the entire area. Moments later, the students found themselves inside the original stone, while the official stood before them, contemplating Lin's decision to take on the extreme level, considering it quite intriguing. Lin then suddenly found himself in a different place, realizing that he had entered the virtual world inside the original stone. At that moment, he recalled the official's words before they were transported, that any injuries they sustained in the virtual world would not affect them in reality, even if their companion beast were to die. Feeling reassured that there was nothing to worry about, he knew he could act freely without fear. Just then, a status screen appeared before him, indicating that he had yet to claim his achievement points for defeating the Phantom Wolf. Delighted to see the system screen functioning within the virtual world, he decided to claim the 100 points and the soul crystal he had obtained. He then requested to use them to enhance himself and raise his beast's level as well. As a result, his spiritual power increased, and his beast advanced to the second rank, 6th stage. Realizing that his chances of succeeding in the challenge had significantly improved with this development, he felt more confident. However, he was suddenly startled when a door in his surroundings opened on its own. From within, a massive lizard emerged, and he immediately recognized it as a fire-type beast of the first rank, 7th stage. At that moment, he wondered why everyone had claimed the extreme level was impossibly difficult when he was now facing a beast of the first rank. Just then, the lizard unleashed a massive burst of flames from its mouth, aiming directly at him and his beast. In response, Lin commanded the Ice Crystal Spirit to launch ice shards at the lizard. The Ice Crystal Spirit followed his command, causing the entire area to be covered in ice. His plan succeeded. The lizard froze completely, just like the Phantom Wolf before it. Lin then commented that the ice shards had become stronger than before, and realized that he had successfully passed the first of 5 levels. The challenge continued, and another door opened, revealing a new beast, a mummy beast, classified as first rank, 9th stage. Lin considered that this stage might pose a significant challenge for the other students. Meanwhile, the official monitored all the students' challenges through the screen displayed on the original stone. Lin, however, stood confidently with his hands in his pockets, looking at the defeated mummy beast, thinking that it hadn't been a challenge for him at all. Seeing this, the official commented that Lin had been lucky so far, as the beasts he had encountered were ones his companion could handle. However, what came next would be the real test. A new door opened, and a massive beast emerged, Plague Beast, classified as 2nd rank, 2nd stage. The official continued his observations, pointing out that Lin's companion beast was at the 2nd rank, 1st stage, while Plague Beast was at the 2nd rank, 2nd stage. This meant that no matter how talented Lin was, he wouldn't be able to overcome this stage. Lin attempted to use ice shards against Plague Beast, but they had no effect. He then remarked that the dead wood of this beast was incredibly dense and thick, making it capable of easily deflecting ice shards. Plague Beast then launched an attack on Lin and the Ice Crystal Spirit, hurling deadly wooden fragments at them. It successfully entangled the Ice Crystal Spirit with its sturdy branches, using its entanglement skill, and frustration was evident on the spirit's face. Plague Beast then lunged forward, ensuring that its opponent was completely restrained and incapable of using its abilities. At that moment, the official laughed, remarking that while Lin possessed decent strength compared to the other students, this was the limit of what he could achieve. However, within moments, the official's expression shifted to one of astonishment. Returning to Lin's side, Plague Beast was suddenly unable to move, frozen in place due to the ice spread across the ground beneath it. It was then revealed that Lin had instructed the Ice Crystal Spirit to use the Frost Domain ability. The spirit shattered the branches that had bound it. Lin then commented that everyone assumed he and his beast relied on only one ability. Following that, he ordered the Ice Crystal Spirit to unleash ice shards once again. The ground beneath Plague Beast was completely frozen, and it was bombarded by relentless ice shard attacks from all directions. The assault continued until Plague Beast collapsed in defeat. Lin patted his beast, affirming that they had successfully eliminated the threat. With that, the third level was officially cleared, leaving only 2 levels remaining. Meanwhile, students were exiting their respective challenges one after another. Some left with joy, celebrating their success in passing the simpler levels. However, many others emerged disappointed after failing in the final stages, particularly when they faced beasts beyond their capabilities. At that moment, the students began to notice the heightened interest of the officials monitoring the screen, prompting them to pay closer attention as well. They soon saw a second-rank beast known as the Claw Beast, and questioned why such a creature was appearing in the evaluation tests. They then realized that it was facing the student who had entered the extreme challenge, and that this student had already defeated the Claw Beast, successfully clearing the 4th level. Now, only the 5th and final level remained for Lin and the Ice Crystal Spirit. One of the students, astonished, asked how strong this student could possibly be, especially since he was familiar with all the top talents at school, and Lin had never been one of them. At the same time, Ning exited the virtual world, overjoyed at her success in the challenge, as it meant she would now be able to train as a Beastmaster. She then wondered about Lin's current situation. However, she noticed a crowd of students gathered around the screen, commenting on the individual they were watching and describing him as incredibly powerful. Her curiosity piqued. She stepped forward to see for herself, and was stunned to discover that Lin had cleared the 4th level of the extreme challenge. Overcome with excitement, she was deeply impressed by his achievement. At that moment, the students' anticipation grew even stronger as the 5th beast emerged from the door, signaling the start of the final stage of the challenge. Everyone standing in front of the screen was taken aback when they saw that the beast was a saber-toothed lion, a second-rank, 6th stage beast. The students screamed in panic, exclaiming that this was completely unacceptable, that the lion was an incredibly dangerous beast, and that it was impossible for any student, no matter how strong, to defeat it. However, when the scene shifted back to Lin, he stood firm, remarking that he had finally found a beast worthy of fighting. Meanwhile, the Ice Crystal Spirit was fully prepared to launch ice shards directly at the lion. Yet, the lion moved with incredible speed, evading every shard effortlessly. Seeing this, Lin immediately realized that this beast possessed exceptional speed. At that moment, the lion lunged toward the Ice Crystal Spirit, executing its saber claw attack. Thanks to its terrifying speed, it managed to land a blow, tearing a portion of the spirit's body. Meanwhile, the official observed intently, contemplating whether Lin had any more tricks up his sleeve. Although he was deeply impressed by Lin's skills and strength, he believed this would be the end for him. The lion closed in on Lin and the Ice Crystal Spirit. Lin knew that his beast was one stage higher than the lion, but he also understood that the strength of a companion beast wasn't determined by stage alone. Factors such as individual traits, conditions, and the Beastmaster's strategy all played a role in the outcome. Additionally, the Ice Crystal Spirit had been significantly weakened after enduring 4 intense battles. He acknowledged that the saber-toothed lion was incredibly powerful, with speed and strength surpassing that of the Ice Crystal Spirit. This was going to be a difficult battle, and if he continued fighting the same way, he would most likely lose. He needed to find the right opportunity. Just then, the lion launched a full-power attack. Lin ordered the Ice Crystal Spirit to be ready, declaring that this was the perfect moment. The instant the lion was about to land its strike, Lin commanded the Ice Crystal Spirit to release ice shards. His plan succeeded. The Ice Crystal Spirit and Lin managed to defeat the saber-toothed lion. All the students and officials were left in shock, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. Lin had actually defeated this fearsome beast. But suddenly, one of the students noticed something strange and urged the others to take a closer look at the lion. The official stood watching the scene unfold, contemplating how Lin had managed to subdue a second-rank, 5th-stage beast. This meant that Lin's companion beast had to be at least of the same rank and stage. He admitted that Lin was incredibly talented and intelligent, having successfully concealed such a powerful trick while making precise decisions based on all surrounding variables. Just then, the lion let out a powerful roar, preparing to launch another attack on Lin and the Ice Crystal Spirit. At the same time, the Ice Crystal Spirit stood its ground, fully prepared and brimming with determination. It then began its counterattack, flapping its small wings and spreading frost across the battlefield. The strategy worked. The ground beneath the saber-toothed lion froze completely, causing its claws to become trapped in ice. Lin then thought about how this lion was a spirit beast from the southern region, where the weather was extremely cold. This meant that it had high resistance to ice, making Lin hesitate about his next move. At that moment, he received a notification indicating that he had achieved a new milestone and earned 100 achievement points for using his companion beast 10 times. Another notification followed, informing him that these points had unlocked a new feature allowing him to acquire additional skills for his spirit beast, something Lin didn't fully understand at first. A new menu then appeared on the screen, presenting him with 3 skill options: Frost Chains, Ice Shield, or Frost Star. Lin was astonished by the possibility of adding more abilities to his companion beast. As he considered his options, he realized that typically, a beast had only 2 primary abilities. However, by acquiring additional skills, he would be able to employ a wider range of strategies in battle. He then began comparing the available skills in the list. He noticed that ice shards relied heavily on precision and control, whereas frost had a broader area of effect. However, that didn't necessarily make it the best choice. Lin considered that what he needed most at that moment was an ability that provided strong control while delivering precise damage to a specific target. For that reason, he chose to add the Frost Chain skill, which cost 50 points. While he was still contemplating how to use his remaining achievement points, the saber-clawed lion managed to break free and charge toward them. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Lin immediately decided to use the remaining points to level up the Ice Crystal Spirit. At that moment, the Ice Crystal Spirit began emitting a powerful glow, leaving the students bewildered as they struggled to understand what was happening. When they finally realized that the glow signified its level increasing, one student expressed disbelief, pointing out that Lin hadn't used any items to enhance his beast's rank. Another remarked that evolution was supposed to occur after a victory, not during battle. While the students debated among themselves, Lin remained focused on the fight, confidently motioning toward the lion as if inviting it to approach. As soon as the beast got close enough, Lin commanded the Ice Crystal Spirit to activate Frost Chains. The ability successfully restrained the lion, preventing it from moving. With his plan working as expected, Lin declared that it was time to unleash the ice shards. The Ice Crystal Spirit executed his command, sending a barrage of shards that pierced the lion's body, causing it to roar in pain. Meanwhile, the students were left wondering about these unfamiliar skills, while the official nearly lost his composure, exclaiming aloud, questioning how Lin's companion beast was capable of using 3 different abilities. Returning to the battlefield, the lion remained standing despite the shards embedded throughout its body. Lin commented that its hide was exceptionally thick. He then instructed the Ice Crystal Spirit to prepare for another round of attacks. The spirit obeyed, launching another relentless assault of ice shards at the beast. Finally, the lion collapsed, and Lin was officially declared the winner of the extreme level training test. Ning was overwhelmed with joy for him, exclaiming that he was truly the best. However, some students refused to accept his victory, insisting that what he had done was impossible. Some even speculated that he might have bribed someone to pass. As for the official, he admitted his astonishment, stating that he had never expected such a performance from someone he had previously dismissed as insignificant. He went on to say that he had encountered many talented and remarkable young people in the past, but none had been like Lin, an unknown student who had suddenly shone with such brilliance. As the attention returned to Lin, he noticed that both his and the Ice Crystal Spirit's ranks had increased significantly. He realized that the extreme difficulty test had had an incredible impact on their strength. Shortly after, a notification appeared, informing him that he was now eligible to contract a second companion beast alongside his current one. This left him uncertain about which beast would be the best choice. However, he decided it would be best to wait until he visited the pet beast store to select the most suitable one for his future needs. Another notification then popped up, congratulating him on officially becoming a trainee beastmaster. He had also earned 200 achievement points for passing the test, along with a soul stone. Lin then exited the virtual world of the test, only to find himself surrounded by a large crowd. They quickly gathered around him, bombarding him with questions about how he had achieved such a feat and where he had obtained the ice beast he used, all while praising his exceptional performance. Suddenly, Ning leaped onto his back excitedly, congratulating him and exclaiming that she had always believed he would pass the test. He had been truly incredible. At that moment, the official approached him. Admitting that Lin's performance had been nothing short of spectacular, he retracted his previous statements, acknowledging that Lin's decision to take on the extreme difficulty test had not been reckless or impulsive, but rather a choice made with complete confidence. This unexpected turn of events sparked a debate among the students, with some pointing out that the official had never apologized to a student before. However, Lin simply responded that he had never taken those words as an insult in the first place. The official then asked if his name was Lin before extending an offer, an invitation to join the Beast Trainer Association. He explained that they could recruit Lin as a reserve trainer, offering him a generous salary while assuring him that the position would not interfere with his enrollment in the Beast Training Academy. Additionally, he informed Lin that upon graduation, he would be immediately appointed as an official trainer within the association, if he agreed to the offer. Hearing this, Ning leaned in and whispered in his ear, urging him to accept immediately. She emphasized that even academy graduates rarely received an opportunity to work with the association. Ning continued speaking, explaining to Lin that competition among graduates was extremely fierce, comparable to thousands of people trying to cross a narrow bridge, with only a handful managing to make it to the other side. Lin thought to himself that this was incredible, because it meant he wouldn't have to worry about the cost of living or tuition fees at the academy anymore, and everyone would respect him. However, he continued his train of thought, realizing that nothing came for free. If the offer was this exceptional, then surely the price he would have to pay in the future would be high. Moreover, the association had extremely strict rules, and he didn't want anything to restrict him at this stage. For that reason, Lin thanked the official and told him that he had carefully considered the offer but had decided to decline, preferring to make his decision after graduation. At that moment, all the students were left in complete shock, unable to believe what they had just heard. Each of them wished they were in his place, and one of them even dared to approach the official, suggesting that he take him instead if Lin wasn't interested. However, the official completely ignored him and didn't respond. Meanwhile, the official continued observing Lin, convinced that he was an extraordinary young man. Given his current rate of progress, he would become hundreds of times stronger in the future, at which point he could demand far greater benefits. He then told Lin that he respected his decision and wouldn't insist on it, but he also made it clear that if Lin ever needed anything or changed his mind in the future, he could reach out to him at any time. Before leaving, he introduced himself as Huozhen, then exited the hall along with the rest of the attendees. After that, all the students began leaving the test site, but suddenly, Ning heard someone calling her name. When she turned to see who it was, she told Lin that they were two girls from the neighboring class, Xian and Xiao. However, she was surprised when the two girls asked her to introduce them to Lin, as they wanted to become his friends. One of them then stepped forward, requesting that Lin add her as a friend. She mentioned that they had admired him for some time, and then congratulated him on passing today's test. At that moment, Ning felt extremely annoyed by them, while Lin quickly responded, explaining that he and Ning had many important things to take care of, and that he could talk to them later. He then took Ning with him and hurried away, but one of the girls called after him, insisting that he add her as a friend before leaving. Shortly after, he received a message on his phone. When he opened it, he saw that it was from his teacher, requesting that he come to her office immediately. He immediately returned to school and headed to her office, wondering what she wanted from him. She greeted him, confirming that she had heard about his success in the extreme difficulty training test. Then, she suddenly rushed toward him and hugged him tightly, congratulating him and insisting that she had always believed in his potential. At that moment, Lin recalled a memory of the same teacher chasing him with a whip, cursing and scolding him for his terrible grades. Afterward, she explained that she had called him this time because she wanted to give him something important. She then handed him a uniquely designed book. Lin took the book and read the title, The Code of Spirit Arts Techniques. His teacher then told him that the book contained essential rules and techniques for training in spirit arts, and that reading it would be incredibly beneficial before he began his journey as a beastmaster. She further explained that mastering spirit arts, alongside controlling companion beasts, was one of the most effective combat methods for beastmasters. She added that a beast trainer who excelled in spirit arts would be capable of defeating even ferocious beasts, as they could use these techniques for both offense and defense. Lin was overjoyed to receive the book and thanked his teacher, assuring her that he would start learning from it immediately. She then told him that if he encountered any difficulties while studying, he could come to her for help at any time. The scene then shifted to Lin sitting at home, immediately diving into his new book, just as he had promised his teacher. When he opened the first page, he found the title, Spirit Guardian. The text explained that this skill created a spiritual energy shield, capable of blocking any damage from all directions at a full 360-degree angle by consuming spiritual energy. Lin reflected on the saying, "The early bird catches the worm," and decided to start by learning the Academy's fundamentals first, setting aside time later for these additional matters. However, just 10 minutes after making this decision, he was already practicing the techniques written in the book. Soon, he felt something different. He sensed a protective shield surrounding him. He assumed that he must have mastered the skill already, as he wouldn't have felt such a change otherwise. Looking at his hands in disbelief, he realized that while ordinary people took days or even months to master spirit arts, he had managed to do it in just 10 minutes. This confirmed that his spiritual body at this level was incredibly advantageous. Shortly after, he received notifications confirming that he had officially mastered the spirit art and had earned 100 additional points, bringing his total to 350 achievement points. The system then asked if he wanted to spend 50 points to upgrade Spirit Guard. Lin thought it was an incredible feature and noticed that the system supported spirit arts techniques as well. At that moment, he realized that he had unintentionally accumulated a significant number of achievement points. He decided that it would be best to invest them in enhancing his skills, allowing him to save more lives in the future. He spent 100 points, leaving him with 250 remaining. After that, he sat down again and resumed practicing spirit arts training. This time, he felt that the protective shield had grown stronger and thicker after its level up. He also noticed that its size had significantly increased, making it large enough to protect 3 or 4 people within it. He then observed that his spiritual power had decreased by only 10 points. This led him to conclude that each use of Spirit Guardian consumed 10 points, meaning he could use it 78 times before his energy was depleted. Next, he remembered the soul stone he had obtained after the beast trainer test, but had yet to use. He decided to activate it now. The moment he did, his soul rank increased by 1 level, and his spiritual power rose from 780 to 880 points. Upon realizing the extent of his spiritual power, he thought that relying on Spirit Guard alone would be a waste of such strength. Thus, he decided to learn 2 additional techniques from the book. With that, he returned to his studies and began learning 2 new spirit arts, Spirit Arrow and Spiritual Force Shock. He trained for hours until the end of the day. Then, he suddenly got up and moved at an incredible speed, only to crash straight into the wall ahead of him. The collision consumed another 10 points of spiritual power, but he noticed that the force he had used wasn't that strong, yet the impact was incredibly precise, just like an arrow. He then decided to test his fist strength. Gathering his energy, he prepared for a more powerful strike. With one punch, he shattered the entire wall, consuming 30 points of his spiritual power, leaving him astonished at the sheer power of this technique. Because he had successfully mastered 3 spirit arts, he received a notification stating that he had been awarded a spirit recovery potion, a one-time use elixir capable of reviving a fallen spirit beast. Lin decided to save it for emergencies. He then noticed that his Spirit Arrow and Spiritual Force Shock skills had leveled up to rank 2, and he still had 150 achievement points left. Feeling satisfied with his progress, he decided to keep the remaining points for later use, as he would need money the next day to purchase his second beast. The next day, Lin headed toward the mission center, a place where tasks were assigned in exchange for money. This was his first time accepting a mission for money, and he thought that his current level made him more than capable of completing any mission he chose with ease. He began reading through the available mission list, and decided to select the one with the highest reward upon completion. However, he felt disappointed when the system informed him that due to his current rank as a trainee, 3 other people had been assigned to accompany him on the mission to ensure his safety. Realizing this meant that the reward would be split evenly among the 4 of them, he felt slightly frustrated. Then, a map appeared, showing his destination, Bell Valley. He was required to arrive there by 3 p.m. that day. The scene shifted to Bell Valley, where 3 individuals stood waiting. The moment Lin arrived, one of them stepped forward and remarked that he had finally made it. Lin greeted the group, but the man informed him that he had been waiting for him all this time. He then asked if Lin was still a student at the academy and had not yet graduated. It was revealed that his name was Lee, and he was a Beastmaster, though his rank was low. The second person then introduced himself to Lin as Shan, also a low-ranked Beastmaster. At that moment, the third member of the team intervened, telling the 2 of them not to scare Lin. Her name was Yun, and she was also a low-ranked Beastmaster. Yun stood beside Lin and reassured him to stay behind her and not worry. Lin then admitted that he hadn't graduated yet, jokingly adding that he might become a burden to them, but only later on. Yun laughed at his words, but Shan was not amused. He reminded the group that they weren't here to joke around and needed to take the mission seriously, as it was more difficult than they thought, and underestimating it could cost them their lives. Yun looked annoyed by his words, and told him that he had said enough. Shan then declared himself the temporary leader of the group for this mission, and demanded that they follow his orders regarding mission details. He also stated that his reward would be slightly higher than theirs. Lin quickly realized that these 3 had failed to enter the Royal Beast Academy, which was why they relied on completing missions for money, using only basic beast control techniques they had learned in high school. Lin chuckled and suggested that the rewards should be distributed based on each person's effort, so that those who worked harder would earn more. Shan immediately agreed, praising Lin for his logical thinking. With that, the group set off to complete their mission in Bell Valley. A short while later, they arrived at the mission site, where they were greeted by a massive swarm of insect-like beasts. Yun was shocked by the sheer number of insects, but Shan explained that their task was to seal the opening from which the insects emerged and eliminate them completely. Shan initiated the attack by summoning his companion beast, a rhino beast of 2nd rank, 5th stage. Li followed suit, summoning his wind-cutting locust, which was also 2nd rank, 5th stage. Then, Yun summoned her companion beast, a fearsome wasp, also 2nd rank, 5th stage. She then turned to Lin and playfully called him little brother, instructing him to stay behind her. However, Lin chose not to summon his beast, preferring to wait and observe their abilities first. At that moment, the giant insects began advancing toward them in overwhelming numbers, some crawling across the ground, while others swarmed through the air. Shan took the lead, commanding his rhino beast to charge into the swarm and crush them all. The rhino followed orders, unleashing tremendous power. However, Li was not impressed by its performance. The flying insects easily evaded the rhino, making it ineffective against them. Li scoffed, saying that they should watch what his beast could do. He then sent his wind-cutting locust into action, but his locust also failed to deal with the massive swarm. Yun smirked and remarked that his locust wouldn't be able to accomplish anything. She then commanded her fearsome wasp to attack. The fearsome wasp launched a poisoned needle strike, but it only managed to take down a small number of insects. Despite all 3 beasts engaging in battle against the overwhelming swarm, the number of insects defeated was disappointingly low. Li then turned to Lin and asked if he planned to do anything, or if he was just going to watch while they competed against each other. Shan then mocked Lin, sarcastically asking if he still expected to earn money for his academy tuition. However, Yun stepped in, assuring Lin that once they finished the mission and received the reward, she would share her earnings with him. She then urged him to stay behind her and not worry. As Lin stood observing the situation, he realized that everything the 3 of them had done so far was nothing more than a series of random attacks that posed no real threat to the massive swarm of insects. Suddenly, a loud, terrifying shriek echoed through the air, and the insects immediately began gathering upon hearing the sound. Fear appeared on Yun's face, as none of them knew where the sound had come from or what it meant, which only added to their tension. The 4 of them, along with their beasts, stood still, uncertain of what was happening or what was about to come next. Then, Li suddenly shouted, pointing at an insect emerging from the hole. Its horns were different from the rest. He exclaimed that these insects had summoned reinforcements. At that moment, Lin wondered if the king of the insects, the greater death beetle, had just emerged from the burrow. Immediately after, a large swarm of insects launched an assault on the rhino beast, instead of fleeing from it as they had before. The same thing happened to the wind-cutting locust and the fearsome wasp, as the insects surrounded and trapped them before attacking them violently. The 3 beastmasters were filled with terror, and Li screamed, ordering everyone to withdraw their companion beasts immediately, warning that they would all die if they didn't escape these cursed insects. Shan, completely panicked, called out desperately to his rhino beast. However, Lin told them that what they were doing was pointless, explaining that the sound emitted by that insect had paralyzed their beasts, rendering them unable to hear or respond to any commands. Upon hearing this, Yun was overcome with fear for her fearsome wasp and asked Lin what they should do now. Li, overcome with rage, grabbed Lin by the collar, furiously accusing him of knowing this beforehand and not warning them. He then insulted him, calling him useless and nothing more than a sarcastic observer. But Lin calmly responded, pointing out that Li shouldn't only be worried about his beast, but about his own life as well. The reason behind Lin's words soon became clear, as they saw a massive army of insects charging directly toward them. At that moment, Shan screamed, urging everyone to run immediately, warning that no one would leave this place alive if they didn't escape now. This was far from a simple first-rank mission. Shan took off running at full speed, trying to outrun the flying insects that relentlessly pursued him. However, they caught up to him quickly and were about to strike him down. But just in time, Lin activated Spirit Guard, creating a massive protective shield that surrounded them all and blocked the insects' attack. Li was shocked beyond belief upon seeing Lin using spirit techniques. He gasped in disbelief, saying that only students from the Royal Academy were supposed to be capable of using such techniques. It was impossible for a mere high school student to have mastered them. But Lin sharply retorted, telling him to stop his useless chatter and to focus on staying inside the shield and paying close attention to what was about to happen. At that, Li fell completely silent, utterly stunned by what he was witnessing. Lin then summoned his companion beast, the Ice Crystal Spirit, which appeared before them in its small, adorable form. Li was once again shocked, his voice trembling as he asked what kind of beast this was. Meanwhile, Yun admitted that she had never seen anything like it before, and Shan added that he had no idea what it was either. Lin then began analyzing the situation, reasoning that if these insects had ranks like companion beasts, they were likely at most first rank, 7th stage. But the real danger didn't lie in their individual strength. it was in their overwhelming numbers. He also realized that his 3 teammates lacked any large-scale attack abilities, meaning they were incapable of dealing with such a massive swarm. Fortunately, however, his ice crystal spirit possessed powerful wide-range attack capabilities. At that moment, Lin gave his ice crystal spirit a command to spread ice across the widest possible area in front of them. The beast immediately obeyed. In an instant, all the insects froze in place, completely immobilized by the overwhelming frost energy unleashed by the ice crystal spirit. Lin then turned to the others, telling them to withdraw their companion beasts immediately, before it was too late. However, he warned that if they did so, they would have to forfeit their mission rewards. Despite this, the 3 of them stood frozen in place, unable to process what they had just witnessed, completely stunned by what Lin and his beast had accomplished. Without much thought, they agreed to his proposal. They only want to take their animals, and they don't care about the rest. But it seems that Zhao's decision didn't quite please him. Since the guy decided to personally go through the mission, he had a hunch that he was the same Lin Zhe. Without thinking for a long time, Lin Zhe introduced himself. He was indeed a student who had passed the highest category trial. Shuiyun had already guessed this a long time ago. After all, a mere student couldn't even have such strength. Therefore, she immediately asked Lin Zhe to save their animals. But despite Lin Zhe's introduction, this guy still didn't believe him. But he decided to forget about it, because the most important thing right now was his beast. He made Zhao very angry, so he couldn't hold back and hit him. After the manifestation of spiritual power, Zhao no longer needed proof to believe Lin Zhe. It seemed the ice bugs would soon rise again with renewed strength. Lin Zhe ordered them to quickly pick up their pets and rush to escape. Otherwise, the swarm of insects would attack them again. Shuiyun was suddenly worried for Lin Zhe. After all, the bugs couldn't be destroyed this way, because his attack would only stop them for a while. But it seems that Lin Zhe had already thought of his plan of action a long time ago. In order to destroy the swarm, he would first have to deal with their boss. Before moving towards the boss, Lin Zhe asked them to hurry up. After a few minutes, Lin Zhe and the ice spirit reached their destination. Despite the darkness around them, Lin Zhe's abilities allowed him to see perfectly. It seems the improved physical fitness had also improved his vision. After a few seconds, he was able to make out a bunch of insects around him. For his defense, Lin Zhe once again used his spiritual power. The insects instantly began to attack him. But Lin Zhe was not confused. From now on, his possession of spiritual power would always help him in battle. With each passing moment, the bugs became more and more numerous. Lin Zhe realized that despite his spiritual power, he wouldn't last long. Suddenly, he remembered that he still had some achievement points left. In the same instant, the system panel appeared in front of him. In his rewards, he still had 150 achievement points left. This should be enough for a good increase in Crystal Spirit. At this moment, the Crystal Spirit had already mastered the Ice Shield and Frost Nova. With the Ice Shield, Lin Zhe would be able to move around without the help of the Guardian Spirit. And Frost Nova would serve as a great skill for damage amplification. But first, Lin Zhe decided to gather the surrounding ice elements. He would be able to combine them with the Arctic domain. After this merging, his attack became much more powerful. Without thinking for a long time, Lin Zhe decided to use the Spirit Guardian again. After looking around, Lin Zhe saw the location of the ice elements. Lin Zhe then ordered the Ice Spirit to use the Frost Nova. The Ice Spirit immediately started using this skill. Meanwhile, the herd of beetles was getting closer and closer to Lin Zhe. But thanks to the successful use of the skill, this attack was so powerful that the result was excellent. At this point, the Ice Spirit had already managed to master about 4 skills. As it turned out, pets could also improve their skills and strength when gaining experience in battles. Lin Zhe thought this was a great place to raise up the level. There seemed to be a chance that the Ice Spirit could break through today and advance to the next stage. Suddenly, they heard a loud roar. After taking a closer look, Lin Zhe suddenly realized that the king of the insect swarm was directly in the center of the gorge. Meanwhile, the team had already managed to leave the scene. Shuiyun decided that they definitely needed to report the danger of this mission. Otherwise, Lin Zhe would be in great danger. He still couldn't understand why Shuiyun was so worried about Lin Zhe. Suddenly, someone entered the gorge area. He immediately drew their attention to himself. It is Luo Da, and he is a bronze beast tamer. He seems to be in search of a gorge with deadly beetles.